So, where are you going to take the show? I mean, the millennium now is racing at us. We're almost, here we are almost at November, December, and that's it.
Curiously, we have brought Lance Henriksen onto the X-Files to finish up his character, his Millennium character on the X-Files.
Oh, really?
Yes, and Mulder and Scully have, on New Year's Eve, they have an opportunity to do what a lot of people do on New Year's Eve. And so it is something of a millennial episode for them as well.
Uh-huh. What do you think will happen to Millennium after the first of the year? I'm sure a million people ask you that all the time. How will it affect the show?
Well, Millennium isn't on anymore, actually, so it's already been affected.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I meant X-Files.
Yes. I don't know. I don't know with the sort of, that's the Y2K question.
It is, yes.
I don't know the answer. It won't affect it as far as I'm concerned. I'll continue to do the same thing I've always done over 7 years, is to try to do the best, show possible. But I'm very curious to see what happens at the turn of the century, and how I might, in fact, use some of what happens for stories.
I'm very curious what's going to happen, too. Do you have any guesses about this whole Y2K thing? I mean, there's a million different scenarios, from very grim to nothing but a hiccup and a laugh and another glass of champagne.
I think that, I was just saying to a guy I work with today, Frank Spotnitz, I was saying that I'm spending, I'm staying home, I'm staying put, I'm staying grounded.
Me too.
Wisely, I think, and I'm predicting that there will be something unforeseen and unexpected and unanticipated, and
well, there are hundreds of thousands of embedded chips in power companies switching equipment.
Right.
And I recollect well a little power station down in Idaho somewhere, up in Idaho, went offline and knocked the entire western third of the U.S., Mexico, and Canada down. So if only a small percentage of what they're talking about with regard to Y2K occurs, boy.
I've seen, we've all seen the satellite hiccup that caused everyone's pagers to go out not long ago.
You bet.
And we saw, I've witnessed firsthand what happens on the freeway when someone drops a box of nails in L.A. The whole city log jams and gridlocks. So I'm very curious to see what happens when there's a real sort of event.
Well, we had a little preview with the hurricane recently in the southeast, and what happened was massive millions of people began to move, and you couldn't get a hotel and you couldn't get a place to stay, and it was horrible. Moving west, people were literally filling everything up. Never had that many people moved. And if we ever did have a really large event, do you think we are prepared to handle it? I mean, if something threatened, for example, a large portion of the East Coast, and people had to really move out suddenly, I don't think it could be done, Chris.
I don't think we're prepared for something like that.
No.
I witnessed the 50th anniversary of Sturgis, South Dakota, and they couldn't handle that.
That's right. That's exactly right. So you are personally somewhat hopeful, but professionally, I don't know, how would you describe yourself professionally as?
I'm a hopeful person, to be honest. I'm a happy person. I'm a person who wants things. I'm somewhat still idealistic. So all the grimness, the darkness, all the paranoia is a way of defending against defending that happiness, I should say.
You see, I sort of believe the same thing. I do think there's a change coming, some sort of, it's an overused phrase, paradigm shift. Something's going to happen, something fairly major. And I think that discussing it and having people begin to consider it is a kind of a protective a protective thing. It causes them to begin to think about preparedness and that sort of thing. That's a good idea no matter what.
Right. You know, in the opening credits of Millennium originally, we had the words worry and wait, and those were significant words to me, for me, and for Lance Henriksen, for Frank Black, because they are a kind of, those are watchwords for me.
Now, did you tell us a little while ago that essentially Mulder and Scully were going to consummate the millennium?
They had the opportunity to do what a lot of people do at the stroke of midnight on New Year's.
I see. All right. Other than the movie, you know, the X-Files movie, what's in your mind?
Well, I create and produce TV shows, so I'm always looking for an idea that will generate, 100+ episodes, and they're very, very few and far between, good ones. I'm looking for people to work with that can sustain that kind of work, which is very, very difficult, the most difficult work in show business as far as I'm concerned.
Not a lot of new ideas out there, are there?
No, there aren't any. There tend to be the typical franchises, the law show, the hospital show, the cop show.
I know.
And I try to do something different, as I have done over the past while with X-Files, Harsh Realm, and Millennium. And sometimes they work, obviously, and then as this recent decision was made, sometimes they don't. But I'll continue to try to do something different because it's what interests me.
Well, I think the entertainment industry, taken as a whole, ran out of ideas years ago, and it just seems like we're seeing them regurgitated all over the place, and that's kind of why I stepped away from what I was doing about a decade ago and began doing something. I was sick of it all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to. There's nothing worse than working, at something you're unhappy at, and
that's right.
I'm lucky that I've found something that makes me happy, mostly. So
you're in search of it. In other words, you would be, if suddenly the light bulb went off in the middle of the night for you.
Yeah.
You wouldn't hesitate to begin development.
No, I mean, I'm a hard worker, so if I see something that is gives me the continues to generate story ideas, like the X-Files is a perfect example. I mean, the show could go on indefinitely, really, because there are so many things to explore and stories to tell. If I find another idea like that, I get very excited about it because it's almost like the original idea begins to work for you and allows you. It creates a resource, is what it does.
Well, the Chinese have a curse about interesting times, and a lot of people suggest that at the Millennium, why programs like mine and programs like yours may suffer. I think not. I think that the times are going to get really, really interesting going into 2000 and beyond.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So I really want to thank you for coming and being on the program.
My pleasure.
Tonight. I know.
I owe you.
No, actually, yeah, you do owe me because I was on Millennium. I love that show. I love doing that show. And by the way, we talked for just a second before we were on the air, and you told me that once you were in one of your own episodes, and you strolled on there suggesting that they were all over highly paid people.
Right.
And then after you were done?
I told them whatever we were paying them wasn't enough.
Wasn't enough.
It was really hard. Anyone who thinks that it's easy to sit there in front of the camera and be natural or play a role is mistaken.
How in God's name they do that day in, day out, week in, week out is completely, utterly beyond me.
Well, that's easy.
It's easy?
No, to do it week in, week out. It's the first time that's really hard.
It's that first one, huh? All right, Chris, thank you for being on the program.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Take care. We'll do it again. That's Chris Carter. The X-Files, Chris Carter. Harsh Realm gone after 3 weeks. I'd say that's harsh. And again, this is not directed at Fox. It's directed at all of the networks. Since when does any program catch on in the first 3 weeks. Don't touch that dial.